This was painful. One of the hardest skills in Stardew to upgrade quickly is undoubtedly the foraging skill. With so few opportunities to gain XP, it's one of the first skills we use and one of the last we max out. So why not do a Joja challenge? This challenge, originally entitled Forever Foraging by its creator Leah Rose, is the end-all, be-all of foraging, and is guaranteed to force you to appreciate the beauty of nature and the agony of adhering to rules set in place by an evil, vindictive, absolute Now onto the rules. Rule number 1. Unlike the majority of my challenges, the Joja standard rules do not apply. Well, not all of them anyway. I've linked these below for those who are interested. While you still are not permitted to donate to the museum, complete any journal quests, or help wanted ads, you are also not permitted to check your mail. Period. Nor can you enter the mines, which means that cave diving for mushroom floors is out of the question. Rule number 2. The only items that can be sold are those affected by the botanist profession achieved by hitting level 10 foraging. This means that no wood, sap, weeds, tree seeds, mixed seeds, or seasonal wild seeds can be sold. This also means no tapping trees for resin, tar, or syrup. Even though mushrooms are technically foraged items, only mushrooms that are picked up off the ground are eligible to be sold for this challenge, so no mushrooms from any potential mushroom trees or the mushroom log will count. Rule number 3. Players can, and likely will, passively upgrade other skills, such as fishing and mining. This is okay. Players are not, however, permitted to plant anything outside of tree seeds. No mixed flower, or seasonal wild seeds are to be planted for this challenge, even if it's just for energy. Rule number 4. Players can only hoe artifact spots during the winter season that may or may not indicate snow yams or winter roots. No farming the beach or other hoeable areas for the chance at forage not otherwise identified. Now onto my run of this challenge. With rules like that, I really only had one farm layout option: the forest farm. Not only does it have multiple spots on which forage items can spawn, it also has several berry bushes that produce in spring and fall. So, obviously. As far as strategy, I mean, get to level 10 and ride this out till it's done, I guess. I knew this would be at least a year 2 finish. Even with the Botanist perk, foraged items are just not money makers. Not being able to grow my own foraged items meant I was at the mercy of the RNG gods on this one. I started off Spring Day 1 completely absolved of any responsibility as to the outcome of this challenge, and also by foraging and making a don't chest. I wanted to make sure I hit level 1 foraging to unlock my only good food option, my beloved field snacks, which I did before tossing what I could into my overnight bin to be sold and heading to bed. I hit level 2 foraging on Spring Day 3, which I then increased to level 3 foraging on Spring Day 5. Day 6 was my first Saturday, which meant it was my last day before a foraging reset. I grabbed 300 wood and headed for the beach to repair the bridge to the tide pools. While most of the beach items are categorized as fishing items when sold, picking them up off the ground counts towards your foraging XP. These items are, in fact, affected by the Botanist perk as well, so naturally I'd have to be asleep not to do this. When I tell you that I covered the map on Spring Day 6, I mean I actually covered the entire playable areas within Stardew, scooping up every last forageable and chopping down trees that dared stand in my path. And all for a measly 1814 gold. Yeesh. To add insult to injury, I didn't even level up foraging, as I so desperately hoped I would. I did, though, start off the challenge strong by talking to Morris to unlock the ability to purchase the membership once I was rolling in the money later. All of the tree seeds I had amassed for energy were planted in the ground on spring day 8, marking my first mistake of this challenge, as this was embarrassingly late. I knew I would be running out of trees sooner rather than later, and felt it'd be a good idea to start growing some backups. I managed to hit level 4 foraging on this day as well, miles ahead of salmonberry season. I got the cat on day 10. Hooray! Before unceremoniously chopping down the last remaining trees on my farm. I added a few more tree seeds on the 11th, as if that would help those I planted on the 8th grow any faster, before clearing the trees from the bus stop, desperate to hit level 5 foraging and collect the gatherer profession for a chance at doubling my foraged items. The next day, the mountain lake was deforested and I officially became a gatherer overnight. By the time my second Saturday hit, I was woefully underfunded. Despite collecting spring onions from Cindersap Forest every damn day and any stray forageables I passed along the way, I had yet to even collect the amount needed for my Joja membership. I needed a good mass forage haul to inspire me. I was given some time to think about my choices while waiting to enter town without triggering the egg hunt too, which was sobering. What was also sobering was seeing 2,076 gold at the end of an entire day of running around. This was going terribly. Luckily, salmonberry season was right around the corner. I shot out of bed, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on spring days 15, 16, 17, and 18 to scramble through Stardew, shaking bushes and startling local wildlife. What I thought would be a huge payoff, both in gold and XP, ended up being the biggest waste of my time and energy. I couldn't believe I only averaged about 60 berries daily and failed to level up foraging throughout the entire ordeal. I will say though, I finally bought the Joja membership on day 16 and found something super strange on day 17 in Cindersap Forest. I didn't touch it because I figured it would give me gold, but I did take a quiet minute yet again to reflect on my choices. And I hated them. My first tree farm tree grew on the 19th, which terrified me. I added to the tree farm and chopped away at the few trees I had left myself throughout Cindersap before not hitting level 6 and going to bed exhausted. Which was fine because I ended up clinching level 6 the following day. Only 4 more levels to go, which was clearly less than 6 and surely would take even less time as long as I remained vigilant. Yeah, right. I bet you'll never guess how I spent the rest of spring year 1. That's right, sprinting to spring onions and chopping trees for literally no reason other than to get better at chopping trees. If Joja Corporation wasn't a part of my genetic makeup before this challenge, it most certainly is now. Because it was the last day of the season, I kinda sorta foraged on Sunday, spring 28. It would be my last shot at leeks, which pack a hefty 60 gold base value. I entered summer with unbridled motivation to sleep for a few days. I knew the trees on my farm hadn't really grown and that the train station was set to open on day 3. Plus, I was so tired of having run to Cindersap every morning in spring that I felt I earned a few insta-sleep days. I took a look at what a few days' growth had done and was pleasantly surprised to find a few trees up and ready to fall, which I felled handedly. I was so excited that instead of going to the train station, I went to Cindersap to see if the change in season had sped up any of the regrowth there and found, in fact, that it had. I kept on truckin', leaving sap and wood chunks in my wake, scooping up spice berries and sweet peas as I went. I also picked up level 7 foraging, much sooner than I had anticipated, might I add. Summer day 4 had me making some tree fertilizer with my recently unlocked recipe. Lucky for me, I had saved every single stone I pickaxed up throughout spring for a whopping total of 29 fertilizer. This is a number that sounds big, but when put into practice is very, very small. I needed more stone. Fast. So I finally got my little booty up to the train station where I found less stone than I have ever seen at the train station in my life. I planted 4 pine trees here and fertilized them, not realizing I would completely forget about these things in a matter of days. The first summer Saturday was a hoot, let me tell ya. Such a new and different experience from all the spring Saturdays. You know, because there's an ice cream stand now, and the water at the beach is different. I'm kidding no one, this was just as painful as spring. It also marks the first time I foraged seaweed from the beach. This is important later. I spent the next week chopping and replanting trees on the farm. I tried so hard to turn this into a meditative experience. I really did. But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that I rage quit this challenge farm at least 6 different times after not leveling up when I thought surely I had done enough to hit level 8. Even a fairly fruitful, pun totally intended, summer Saturday wasn't enough to push me up that hill. Running to the beach on the always rainy day 13 masked the fact that I was in the middle of the summer beach foraging influx that occurs from the 12th through the 14th, so I missed that entirely. Mistake number 2, coming through. I even checked the inventory of items I sold because I couldn't figure out why I had made so much more money that day than I usually did. What a dummy. The 14th was the environmental event. This is an event I had encountered a few times before, but hadn't researched past the mixed flower seeds and moss stages. I wonder why. Little known fact, to me, about this event, those massive weeds that take up 4 squares and need a good 3 whacks to destroy, those suckers are worth 15 foraging XP. Each! Light years more than any other form of foraging that doesn't require a tool upgrade. Learning this now, as I write this narration, is boiling my blood to such a degree that I could easily dissolve a whole Arnold Schwarzenegger-sized Terminator with a single paper cut. I managed to dice a few, but nowhere near what I would have chewed through had I known this massive game-changing bit of info. Welcome to mistake number 3. This is why we do research, past Mallory, you lazy jerk. I still managed to achieve level 8 foraging, but this was absolutely a happy accident. On the 21st, after a mildly successful summer Saturday, I awoke to find Demetrius standing at my door to refurbish my farm cave. I instinctively chose the fruit bats because it's what I normally go with, and thus I didn't even really think about it. Challenges very rarely require the use of the farm cave, so I don't ever really think about it. But even in considering the mushrooms now, fruit bats were ultimately the right choice for me. Having to routinely forage the entire map once a week was starting to wear on me. Add on having to routinely check my farm cave every 2 days for mushrooms, see ya. And anyway, who doesn't want a horde of bats who love and admire them and bring them juicy little out-of-season gifts? I kinda sorta foraged on summer day 28, hoping to get lucky with some massive amounts of foraging, but it really wasn't worth the time it took. However, I unlocked my first town upgrade, the Quarry Bridge, with full intentions of mining all the stone there for additional tree fertilizer, which I totally did not do. I went to the quarry on fall day 1, but didn't manage to clear much, only enough to secure another 17 tree fertilizers. That 5 stone, 5 fiber recipe was a killer. I thought the soothing colors of fall were gonna be a breath of fresh air, but it actually just made me super irritable. While I carried on chopping trees, I became more and more aware of just how painful trying to accomplish level 10 foraging is when all you can do is pick things up and chop things down. I chopped down one of the special summer trees on fall day 6 after traipsing around town for forage that dropped 6 fiddlehead fern. But because these dropped from the tree, I put them in my don't chest and went to bed. Fall day 8 was the start of blackberry season. Instead of 2 berries per bush, I was snagging 3, but the horrible salmonberry experience had my expectations low, which was the right move, because damn. I averaged about 100 berries per day over the course of 4 days, and the profit, again, just wasn't worth the effort. What was worth the effort, though, was chopping some spare trees down on the 9th and hitting level 9 foraging. This was, again, much sooner than I had anticipated, which reinvigorated my hopes at hitting level 10. The farm cave on fall day 13 was filled with a few different juicy sacrifices, which was a nice surprise. The beach was also pretty full of coral, so things were looking up for me on this day. So much so that I had completely forgotten that after fall comes winter, which I haven't seen in years. Like actual real-life years. I made enough to make me feel comfortable purchasing the mine carts on the 14th to make zipping around town a bit easier on Saturdays. I woke up on the 23rd to a meteor on my farm. I decided to name him Paul and felt happy that the bats now had something extra shiny to look at, hoping it would motivate them to provide me with extra fruits. And it kinda worked! I opted to get the majority of my foraging out of the way on the 26th, knowing the Spirits Eve festival would block my access to the town and the beach. I finished up the rest of the foraging on the 27th, still sitting pretty at level 9 foraging. As always, I kinda sorta foraged on the 28th for any last chances at fall forageables and their delicious XP. It was less than inspiring. I found a present parked within the weeds behind the bookseller. I couldn't access it because of the tree stump, but similar to the pot of gold in spring, I figured opening it would jeopardize my progress in this challenge. Not opening it, though, jeopardized my ability to focus on anything else, so I took a second to research this before getting on. Winter. Moving on! Just kidding. But also kinda not, really. None of my trees were growing, so I spent day one annihilating every last tree in Stardew Valley. Much like in real life, I was so unmotivated to do literally anything throughout the winter season that I didn't even bother with tree fertilizer, and only left my house to forage on Saturdays from that point on. I found a pair of sunglasses on the 6th, which made me feel a bit better, even though my eyes were actually killing me. While I was picking up all sorts of forageables, I was also picking up every single frickin' library book ever to have existed in the history of the world. I also picked up a copy of Jack Be Nimble, Jack Be Thick, which made me laugh snort. The bats, though, were clearly sad and cold, which they expressed through very few gifts. I couldn't blame them. I found one single piece of copper on the 20th from an artifact spot near Robbins, which meant I was not escaping this challenge without meeting Clint. The beach was absolutely stacked on this day, requiring 2 separate trips, which was fine, because I also found a warp totem that made me not just take what I could and bail. I was not enjoying this. Can you tell? This resulted in my most profitable day all challenge and added a whopping 6,842 gold. Yeah, so I kinda lost my mind on the 27th after finding my billionth library book and frantically searched through the menus to see if there was a section dedicated to how many of these stupid things I had found. I was disappointed to learn I would have to walk my ass to Gunther's for this information, and resigned to believe I had found each and every last one and put it out of my mind. I made a last-ditch effort on winter day 28 to hit level 10 foraging before year 2 by going around town and chopping down all of the trees that had magically regenerated throughout the season. I needed level 10 like a bird needs wings. When I failed to reach this, I shut the game down and walked away for about 4 days, I'm not even lying, but not before purchasing the bus upgrade. I returned refreshed and renewed for spring day 1 year 2. A ton of trees sprung up overnight, and so I told myself I would chop and forage everything I possibly could until hitting level 10. Absolutely nothing was going to stop me. I was open to opportunity and welcoming positive vibes, and almost instantly hit level 10. To say I was offended would be an understatement. But I choked down the anger and replaced it with the knowledge that I had officially chopped my last tree, and the axe could take a much-needed break. I abandoned my year 1 strategy of running to Cindersap daily for spring onions. I was doing that more for XP than anything else, and even with Iridium status, they remained the least lucrative of all foraged items. I was pleasantly surprised at how nice and neat my backpack looked on spring day 6 now that everything I picked up was the same quality. This meant fewer trips back to the farm throughout my Saturdays to free up space. However, while returning home from the beach, I happened upon the staunch realization that my seaweed was not iridium quality, which meant that it wasn't part of this challenge. I spent some time searching through my collections to see how many of these I had sold already and happened upon an even staunchier realization that seaweed wasn't a listed item on here because I hadn't caught it with my fishing rod. I speed slept to the next Saturday in hopes that I would be able to wrap up this leg of my challenge quickly so I could pore over the last 8 hours of footage to manually count how many pieces of ocean lettuce I had used towards my purchases thus far. I noticed that there was never a point in this challenge where I had less than 1,000 gold remaining in my account following the purchase of a town upgrade. As long as I hadn't sold 50 pieces of seaweed and ended the challenge with at least 1,000 gold remaining in my bank account, all seaweed sold throughout the challenge would essentially be canceled out. After meticulously tweezing through every last minute of my recorded videos, I counted only 7 for a total of 140 gold. So, not that dramatic, I guess. I was a little less than 5,000 gold shy of the greenhouse upgrade at the start of summer year 2. I made quick work of this on summer day 6. Because I had slept to get to the end of my spring year 2 session, I had completely forgotten to wake up for salmonberry season, but this wasn't a huge loss as past berry hunting seasons would attest, even with the botanist profession. I bought the greenhouse upgrade on day 7 with only the 20,000 gold upgrade left to acquire before I could get my soda machine, close this challenge out, and never do it again. I slept and foraged every Saturday until summer day 20, a particularly bountiful day indeed. I ended this day making 8,560 gold profit and found myself to be less than 1,000 gold away from the boulder removal upgrade. I slept until Tuesday the 23rd to give the forage reset a chance to thrive before heading out, scooping up a few odds and ends, selling these directly to Pierre for the first time all challenge, and heading right on over to Joja to finish the run. I ended this challenge on summer day 24, year 2. Boy, does that hurt to say. I could sit here and talk about how I could have attacked more giant weeds in summer year 1, or worked harder at collecting stone and fertilizing every single tree to finish sooner, but really, I wouldn't actually do any of that. This is a long, grueling challenge, and it's okay to have some days where you just go right to sleep for fear that doing anything else may result in you biting your keyboard in half. Not that I did that, by the way. Also, if anyone needs a copy of Woody's Secret, I have about 9 stashed away, just in case. If you attempt this challenge, please share your result in the comment section below, and until next time, happy challenging, or whatever.